Hi there, I'm Travis Lambert with Cranberry Country Hunter. One thing I really love to do is hunt whitetails from a tree stand when it's cold out. Now by cold I'm talking below zero temperatures. I'm big on the hang and hunt sets when I'm whitetail hunting, so with the below zero temperatures it can cause a few issues here and there. So today I'm going to go through my setup for hunting whitetails with the hang and hunt setup in below zero temperatures. Now my motto for hunting in these cold temperatures, especially doing the hang and hunt sets, is go in cold and come out warm. And what I mean by that is I like to go in dressed really light, pack everything in, get everything set up, and then I change into my warm weather clothes, and then I can stay warm through the whole hunt. Sweating on the way in is bad news when it's cold. That little bit of dampness inside your clothes is going to lead to a quick set for you because you're going to be cold fast. So what I like to do, and this is depending on the temperature, below zero, this is pretty much my standard setup. Above zero, I lose a few layers on the way in. But I start out just a light pair of long underwear, pants. These are just an old pair of Cabela's. That work really well for me. And then I go to a product I've been using lately here, Wrangler. They make these flex fit outdoors pants. These ones are fleece lined. As you can see, they've got a black fleece lining. Work great in the cold weather. I've got unlined pairs that I use when it's warmer out, but I wear those in. That's my bottoms. Also go with a Danner boot. Right now this is a 1,000-gram pronghorn. I've also got a 200-gram pronghorn that if it gets above zero, I'll use that. Gaiters. If I've got any snow on the ground, I'm going to wear gaiters, just trying to keep my bottom of my pants dry. And then when I switch into my warmer clothes, I just leave those bottoms on, leave the gaiters right on, and they're all set for walking back out. I always walk in with my safety harness on. Doing hang and hunt sets, I'll take my rope that I clip into, and I'll hook it into the loops on the waist, and I'll use it as a climbing harness for setting my stand. Tops. What I like to do is I start with a merino wool layer. This is just a First Light hooded quarter zip shirt. Really liking these. And then I will just usually wear a wool sweater on top of that. And this is a windproof. This here is a Cabela's. And it's a zip up on the front. I've also got heavier Cabela's wool ones with the windproof that's a pullover. But most of the time, especially this past year, I've been using the zip up. I can just unzip it to cool down. It's a lot easier. I carry my bino harness in, my rangefinder, and I also carry my bow. And a lot of times with my bow, I'll use a bow harness with the cam covers on it, just so I'm not getting those cams full of snow, because in those below zero temperatures, that freezes up real quick on that metal. And then a real light pair of gloves, and my light hat, and I usually just keep this on once I get into the stand also. If it's not really windy, I'll pull the hat off and just go in without a hat on too. Next up is my pack setup. This is not a light setup. I'm usually going quite a ways and packing everything in, and this is usually 30 to 40 pounds, depending on what I'm throwing in there. Right now I'm using a Cafaro 22 mag setup. This is the Gen 1 22 mag, and I've been using that this year. In the past I've used other packs, EXO, Eberly stock, but this year I found this one to work best for my late season setups. So what I've got going on here, lay this down, and I've also got a Sherman pack on the front of this just to hold some extra stuff and help hold my stand down a little tighter. Earlier in the season I'll run it without that Sherman pack too, just to save a little weight. But I just run the cross straps on here, and then the Sherman pocket straps come across the sticks on top and holds everything tight. So I've got 4 straps on there. Right now I'm using muddy sticks. These are the rope ones. Work really well just because they don't make so much noise with the rope, especially in that cold weather. So I take in 4 sticks, and that usually gets me up at least 16 feet. Sometimes I'll find some limbs to use in there and get me up a little higher. I also, if I know the tree I'm in, if I need any extra sticks, I'll throw an extra stick or two on too. Stand I'm using for this, what I found works best for me, this is an XOP Vanish. Folds up real nice for packing. The seat, it's got some bungees on the back so it can fold back for packing in. And then I just use the wire ties to keep everything tight together. I keep a rope tied right to my stand and just wrap it around. And then I use that for pulling the stand up and then also for pulling my bow up. And these XOPs also use a bracket system. If you want, you can buy them extra. And I take that in. That way I can climb up the tree, hang the bracket, and then pull the stand up and just drop it in the slot. That way I don't have to mess around with trying to get that strap around the tree. And then in the Sherman pocket I also throw in usually a bow hanger, a limb saw, and then a lot of times I'll throw some hand warmers in there, a few other extra items. Okay, once I get everything set up in my tree, it's time to head back down to the ground and get dressed. So I've got my jacket on top, and I pack everything else inside. So digging into my bag here, we're going to go in and kind of go by how I put things on. First off, I'm going to throw on a vest. This is a fleece vest with a windproof lining. Kind of adds a little more protection from the wind with my sweater. That goes on top of my sweater. Then I'm going to go with my jacket, and this is a First Light Woodbury. I've worn this down into temperatures of 20 below. I've got a Sanctuary also. I don't use it very often. This is a touch lighter and just seems a little easier to get around with. And with the layering I use underneath, it doesn't seem to have any issues with getting cold. I've never been cold with it. I bring a hand muff with when it's really cold. That way I've always can throw a couple hand warmers in there, keep my shooting hand toasty. Boot blankets. I wear the lighter boots a lot of times with the 200-gram thin slit, and I'll put the boot blankets on when I get up in my tree and throw a hand warmer in each one. Saves me from having those really warm boots on. And then for my pants, I keep my walk-in clothes on, my long underwear, my Wrangler fleece line pants, and then I'll just throw on a pair of First Light Sanctuary bibs. These things are like an oven. Again, they're not overly windproof, but with the layers I've got on, I've never had an issue. These are heavy too. This is why this pack gets so heavy. And then one other thing I didn't mention that I do is I'm changing socks when I get done setting up my stand. Big thing, I wear a real light pair of sock liners on the way in, and I get sweaty feet, so that's a big no-no when you're hunting that cold weather. So when I get ready to climb back up in for my final sit, I'll swap my socks out. Gloves, I've got glommets, that's what people usually call them. Glove mittens, I'll throw a liner on underneath them, and I've got the fingers cut out of this one just so I can use my fingers for filming on the touch screens. And that's one of the big reasons I bring the muff without the fingers and stuff in the gloves. I like to be able to keep that hand in a muff. And then one on the other hand, this is a hot hands. It's got a slot in it where you can drop a hot hands in there, and that's for my bow hand. And then also, always bring in a net gaiter. This is a fleece, just an old one that I have had forever. Always keep your face covered in that cold weather. And then I've got my climbing rope, and then I keep a kill kit with my knife, rubber gloves, tags, everything inside the pack. And then water, side pouches. I like to carry my headlamp, extra hot hands if needed, chapstick, whatever I think I'm going to need to be able to get at real quickly. And other than that, that's my setup for hunting whitetails in below zero temperatures. I've done a lot of hunting out in North Dakota in the past years with this setup or a setup very similar to this, anywhere from 0 to minus 20 degrees and been able to easily sit, 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, depending on what I've needed to. So, and have been very successful with it. I think the biggest takeaway from this is to go in cold, make sure you're not getting sweated up walking in, get your stand set up if you need to, then get dressed, get into your tree stand, make sure you're layered, make sure you've got everything covered, and make sure you have wind protection. That wind is going to be the biggest reason you get out of your stand early, especially in those cold temperatures. So just pick what works for you, any brand, as long as it works for you, and you should be able to have a good and comfortable sit in those cold temperatures.